Hello, everybody. There we go. I had the music playing through my YouTube thing there, so I was pulling up the chat. All right, we got that fixed. Hello and welcome, everybody. Ed, thank you for being here. I appreciate you, Chattanooga Ed, for joining as always. My awesome co-host. And we've
I
got
did too.
Shy Gal, Mrs. Fever here with us as well tonight. I appreciate y'all coming through. Let's say some hellos real quick while John is still going. That'll give me a chance to say hi. We got Anthony's Fishy Friends, Dragon Lair, Tampa Tom Fishing, Sand Creek Aquatics 2, T-Bone, how are you? Pugamus, good to see you. John Cox, Rico Stan, Rockford Fish Keeping is in the house. Danica Aquatics, how are you? Kenny E. There is Ed in the chat saying hello to everybody. I think John Cox, I got you, but if not, hello again, my friend. Good to see you. I appreciate you being here. Petzotic / multiple aquariums, William Pridemore. The Zen Ginger, hello. Pegasustarina, hey, how are you? Long time no see. Melvin at Rebuilding Our Brand, appreciate you being here. Whips World, Daryl Deemer, Von Lurker, I appreciate you all. And Streetwise, welcome to Team Snowball. I appreciate you coming back. I think, yeah, you re-up because you've got the, not the first month member, so thank you for rejoining the team here. That's her job. Everybody likes it better when she does the party popper, so we're going to let her do that.
Hey there, Melvin. Thanks for being here.
Welcome back, buddy. Streetwise, I do want to warn you, since you kind of keep an eye on the Fish Room Fever website, I made some changes and I'm going to be adding another page in. So just a heads up there if you're looking around and wondering why things look a little different. I've got to get a products page added for all of my dry goods because I'm not going to be listing dry goods on the Our Fish Collective or the OFC website. Just selling live plants and fishies there. So if you see that, just be aware. That's just me playing around. Zen, thank you for posting the link to that. That's going to be same thing. I'm going to put the products on probably on page 2 and move page 2 to page 3. So the main page will still be the stream schedules and links and all of that great stuff. We'll put the good information first and the products after that. Get my party popper piece off of here. So today we are going to be talking about aquariums made easy, things you can do to make life a little bit easier and have to do a little less maintenance in the hobby. Before we get to that, I kind of wanted to update you all on what's been going on in the fish rooms. It's been a lot of work, and fortunately she's been helping me as she always does, and that's very much appreciated, or it would take a lot longer. Even had one of the kids helping earlier as well. I've got, let me pause the live feed over here. There we go. I snapped a couple pictures real quick right before we started the stream just to kind of show you all what's going on. So here's several stacks of tanks, taking down some racks there. Those are all 10 gallons. And yeah, I need to be on that page to move the picture over. So that's one of the rack systems that we took all the tanks down, 16 10 gallons on it. And that little 2.5. We still got 4 at the bottom that we need to empty out. But those are mostly emptied. My youngest son caught most of the fish out of the bottom left tank down there for me. But you can see all the air lines and lights and all that good stuff. So it's been interesting. Moving tanks, even if it's just into another room, is a pain in the backside. I've got a rack set up now that's just a temporary rack that I'm just going to have to re-drain it all again and move the tanks again. But fortunately, it'll just be drain it real low, move the tank, fill it back up. And then see what else. Oh, yeah, there's one of the temporary racks. So I didn't even fill the tanks all the way just because I didn't want that much weight on there. And I've just got some temporary airline run. And then the top 2 tanks, I guess I should have turned the lights on for those, but it was just a quick, hey, this is what's going on picture. Those are both being set up for bettas. One's already got the betta in, and the other I've got to turn the filter on, and they'll be good to go. And then in terms of bettas, this was originally going to be the betta barracks, betta wall, betta rack, whatever you want to term it as. But we decided to go a different way, or I decided to go a different way. Ripped out all the dividers in the tanks that I had taken forever to put in there, and then got all these set up with guppies and endlers, and then a couple of different things on the bottom. But this has got, I guess you say it's got a lot of my guppies and endlers, and then I've got shrimp in there as well. And I've actually been going through, you can kind of see the little white streaks on the bottom rims of the tanks. I got a label maker. That's been awesome. So I've been going around putting labels on all the tanks for what fish are in there. And I think that's also going to make it a lot easier in terms of filming, not just for myself when I'm doing tours, but when other people come over. Ed's mentioned possibly doing a tour over here. Sean Peck Tech has mentioned doing a tour over here. It's a lot easier if they can, video the tank, kind of like what I do at the local fish store when I go to Aquatic Marine, and just, you've got all the labels there to show all the different fish in that tank, or shrimp, or whatever you've got in there. So a lot going on. And I wanted to show you all that because I apologize I haven't put out any videos lately.
James, it looks amazing.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Now, is the top shelf set back just a hair from the bottom, or are they online and it's just kind of a...
It is not. They're all actually online. They're all flush. It's just kind of, I guess, the angle that I got there. And It probably also has to do with there's actually a slant in the ceiling. So the ceiling pitches up in the living room like that, which is where the fish gallery is being moved to. I got hot in here when the air turned off. But they're all straight up and down. That one's just a single row of tanks, but the other ones that I'm going to be building, it's going to be kind of library style. So if you've got, let me get on camera, that one running this way, I'm going to come over a couple feet and do a double rack going down. You're going to have tanks that you look at on both sides, kind of like aisles of tanks, or if you're going down a library aisle looking at books, a similar setup to that. So it's a lot of work, but we are getting there. But apologies, I haven't gotten any videos out. It's been wake up, move tanks, and then when we get done here, I've got more tanks to be moved. Just a lot of stuff. Nico back there on your shoulders having a blast. That's awesome.
Yeah, I don't know why he would jump up on my shoulder just to lick his paw.
There we go. Now I got my live chat back. Let me make sure I didn't miss anything.
I can feel him falling off.
Streetwise joined. Thank you again for that, Streetwise. We'll roll through here and get caught up real quick. Rockford Fish Keeping says, Fisher Fever, when I first started, I set up tank on one side of the room. Then I realized I hated it there and moved it to the other side of the room, and it was a pain. Now, once I set up a tank, it's there forever. Yes, so I try to do that, and that goes into there are kind of three things that I break everything down into in terms of aquariums made easy, and that's research, planning, and patience. That's part of the planning aspect of it is, where do I really want this thing to go? This might seem like a good idea, but like you found out, like I found out, you set up a tank and you're like, I don't like it there. This just doesn't work for me. And I've had that even with just what strains of guppies, like that rack that you just saw a minute ago. It took me forever to kind of figure out exactly where I wanted the different strains at. I'm like, ooh, I really want this one over here so I'll see it more. And then I think I want to put these here, but I want all my shrimp on the same row, but I want to have my endlers on. And so it's even just when you've got a lot of tanks, trying to get that figured out can be interesting. I did actually move some fish, and I went, no, I don't want those in this tank. I want them on the top where I'm not going to see them quite as much, and I'll see something else more. But yeah, it's definitely, if you can plan ahead of time on where the tank is going to go, it makes life a lot easier. Go through here, and Pegasus Arena says, Ed and Fisher and Fever, Kaya is sitting beside me and says, can they come to my birthday? I want to play with the kitty. Oh, that is sweet. Well, happy early birthday for when your birthday is. And yes, Ed has awesome cats. I love playing with Ed's kitty cats when I go over there to his place, almost as much as I love getting in his tanks and doing maintenance and playing with those.
Or bubble hockey.
Yeah. Oh, he's got an awesome bubble hockey table. All right, so I am caught up. Of course, we will.
Great to see Rena, though. We haven't seen her for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you being here, Pegasus Arena. If you do have questions, feel free to throw those in the chat. If you put at Fisher and Fever on there, it will highlight in orange for me so that I can see it. But I guess we'll go ahead and dive right into the subject at hand tonight. We've got about 50 minutes left. Like I said, the three fundamentals that I think will make life easier for everybody, and none of this is new, shocking information for anyone. This is kind of, it's helpful for people that are new to the hobby, but it also can be helpful to, people that have been in it for a while. And you maybe, you get set doing something the same way, for so long, you don't really think outside the box on, hey, I could do this differently. But you've got your research, your planning, and then having patience. And patience is one of those things that it's a hard thing to have if you're not blessed with it already. But that will definitely help you in the hobby, whether it's cycling a tank, breeding fish, just about anything. And Ed's fish room kind of goes to show that as well. Even for setting up your fish room, Ed was very, very patient and methodical in how he set up his fish room, whereas mine was kind of, ooh, we're going to add a tank. Ooh, let's add 5 tanks here. Ooh, let's add 10 tanks there. And now I'm coming back going, I've got to move 57 tanks because I don't like the way this is set up, and I want to, change this room into a nerd room, and move the TV in here, and have the games and books and stuff in this room. So definitely, and of course that goes to planning as well. But if you have the patience, it definitely pays off in all aspects. Chris, Multi-Tank Addiction, good to see you, brother. Appreciate you being here with the 99-cent super pooper chat. I appreciate that, Chris. I hope you're doing well, brother. Hopefully we can get things figured out for Aquashella next year, but I'll definitely talk to you more about that later on once Ed and I have kind of figured out exactly what we're doing as well.
But, I mean, as much planning as you do in your fish room, I'm not even done with it, and I'm still rearranging it. I'm already ready to take all my shrimp tanks out and just put in guppy tanks. I don't know how that happened so fast.
It does. I think change is one of those things that is going to happen throughout the hobby, particularly once you get to the point of, okay, I'm not adding any more tanks, so I don't have that new fish feeling is what I'm going to call it. So instead, I'm just going to change tanks because I can't add more. So I don't really enjoy this as much. I could have this new thing here and put it in the tanks that I already have. So I definitely think that falls into it. That's almost kind of a side, an offshoot of multi-tank syndrome or multi-tank addiction / fish room fever is, well, I've come to the total amount of aquariums I can possibly have. How am I going to change things up? I'm going to move things out of tanks and put in different animals. So definitely.
Now, John Cox is saying, no, keep the shrimp, Ed. I'm keeping my shrimp. They're just my fancy shrimp that I've gotten from Priscilla off of her website, which is a great website. And I also got shrimps from Rob from Flip Shrimps. Is it Flips Aquatics?
Yeah, Flip Aquatics.
Flip Aquatics. He sent me a nice T-shirt, and I wore it one time, and I lost it. I don't understand how I can lose an awesome shirt like that. Well, I actually lost Priscilla's shirt also.
Oh,
they're
no.
put together.
Are you sure you don't have them packed somewhere? You packed them up to go on one of our adventures and they stayed somewhere?
That's what I'm wondering. Oh, I still haven't taken the Guppy Guru out of my truck. Doggone.
His shirt,
Sorry,
not the
Peter.
person. He doesn't actually have Guppy Guru locked in his truck, everybody. So,
but I did notice we were like really fashionable tonight. I'm wearing the purple cooperative fish, and you were wearing your blue and with the purple bandana, and you were wearing the blue glasses with your blue shirt. It went well together.
There we go. And
look at how well that goes together.
I've got to mention this, and I can do it without it necessarily being a shameless plug because she's actually the one that made it. But Shy is wearing her Life is Better at the Lake Fish Room Fever shirt that she made for Teespring, and had to get, not shirt, but there's a shirt version, but she's got the hoodie on. She ordered one of those. So it's got her cichlids on there.
My friend Kate.
So yeah.
That's on this side. Just kidding.
Yeah. She loves making the cichlid merch to go on there. Real quick, I'm going to grab these Grumpy Mike's fish. Thank you for the $1 super pooper chat. I appreciate you, Mike. Always a pleasure to have you here, my friend. And thank you very much for that. Delilah's Critters. Welcome to the team. I appreciate you joining the Fish Room Fever family, becoming a member. You do now have access to all the member emojis in the chat, and if you make comments on the videos, as well as all the behind-the-scenes stuff. I'm not going to make any promises on a date because I keep missing that, but I am working on stuff. I'm constantly getting clips of things, but with having to move, I think I've got 35 or so empty aquariums right now, having to move a fish room full of tanks. I don't want to make a promise on when the next members video is going to be. I may just pop on and do a members only live stream and show you all what's going on. That way y'all can interact as well. But there's lots of behind the scenes footage you can check out whenever you want, if you want. And again, thank you and welcome to the family, Delilah. Chris with Multi-Tank Addiction says, with $10 super chat, Chris, brother, thank you. I appreciate that. Says, nope, not going to Aquashella, going to focus on my plywood tank build. The Dallas tickets can't be changed, so unless I can hang out with someone for 4 days in Dallas, I'm SOL. Well, that's not cool, and I'm sorry to hear that.
Okay, that one didn't pop, so I'm doing this one.
Hit it again. There we go.
There you go.
I know that plywood tank build is going to be awesome. Chris has got this pretty cool diary of a fish keeper thing going right now where he's uploading a daily video diary you all can check out. So I'm sure we will have updates on that plywood tank as it progresses. But good luck with that. I hope that thing seals up better for you than that 300-gallon did. Thank you again, Chris, Multi-Tank Addiction, for the super chat. Pegasus Arena says, Fish Fever, what's the best way to deal with the algae bloom? Her molly tank doesn't have a pleco yet, so I need help. Plecos generally aren't necessarily the best way to deal with it anyways. They bristlenose plecos do fairly well with diatom algae, or that kind of thin brown algae. But other than that, they're not huge algae cleanup fish like a lot of people hope that they are, I guess is the best way to put it. Depending upon what kind of algae you've got going on, there are a lot of different things. The kind of widespread consensus would be dial your lighting back. That usually helps a lot with algae blooms. Make sure that you're not overdosing fertilizers if you are doing fertilizers. I actually found, as much as I love Easy Green, you don't always need to add it to your tanks. I've got Fluval Spec, the 5-gallon tank that I set up with Sean Peck on his channel, and everything was growing fantastically. Didn't have any algae problems in there. The plants all look beautiful. Things making my nose itch. And then I started adding Easy Green, and as soon as I started doing that, I started getting a lot of algae problems. And part of that is because the substrate we used already had pretty much everything that those plants needed. So there was a lot of additional nutrients in the water that algae said, ooh, I can get a hold of this and grow. This is awesome. Candy, thank you for lurking. I appreciate that. So I guess the kind of widespread overall thing is you can lower your light cycle. That usually helps with any type of algae. Make sure that you've not got excess nutrients going into the tank. If it's an actual algae bloom and it's not a bacteria bloom, you can do a water change to help get some of those potential excess nutrients out, bring your nitrates down and things like that. And I'll look and see if we get any other specifics on what's going on.
Yeah, more plants, less light.
Yeah, more plants, less light.
Now,
I love it.
I do have, though, these things. The Easy Carbon. Now, is that for getting rid of algae, or why did I buy this?
I don't know.
I know I bought one, and they were nice enough to send me two.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even, I needed something to get to $100, so I get free shipping. And
Right.
so I said, I don't have any of the carbon. I'll just buy that. And then afterwards, I was like, why did I buy that? Because I have like no algae problems, really.
And what does it say in red letters on the front there? You kept moving the bottle. I couldn't quite get a good shot of it.
It's an inhibitor.
Algae
inhibitor.
Okay.
So I'm guessing maybe you could get something like that. I hate to recommend anything that I've never used.
Right. And I've not used that one either. I will say, and I don't know that that's an algae side. It's probably not, knowing Corey, because Corey generally doesn't like to say good things about algicides, but I don't like to use any type of algicide to deal with algae problems. I'd rather figure out what's the cause of it. Depending upon the algae, you can do things like H2O2 or hydrogen peroxide treatments, which is what I'm doing on some blackbeard algae that I've got going in that PECTEC tank, that fluval speck. But I try and avoid algicides as much as possible.
I thought maybe I was getting like a steroid or something for my plants, but I mean that's basically easy green.
Yeah, the Easy Green's awesome. I use that and use the Easy Iron. I've not tried the Easy Carbon.
Yeah, I should have probably ordered the Easy Iron. Oh well. Yeah, I don't really have any red plants, and then I do like to put red clay in my tanks. When I do my different substrates, put that on the bottom, or like in between the dirt and the sand. I'll put some red clay discs, and works real well.
So T-Bone is asking, how long do tiger barbs take to get full size? Mine range from 2 to 4.5 centimeters at the moment. Tiger barb growth rate. Goodness. I am going to say, I'm going to take a guess here, and then we're going to take a look and see if we can find something factual. Somebody may have already answered it in the chat by the time I actually get the answer. But I'm going to say it takes them a year and a half to reach their maximum size. So let's see what old Google can tell us over here. Get down through here. And then Rena says, Fisher Fever, no fertilizer, only light is the bulb and the lights on the lid. I'll be doing a close look at the tank on Tuesday stream for anyone to help. I will try and swing by there and check it out, and we'll see what we can get figured out for you.
Awesome.
Okie dokie. Get caught up there. All right. Let me pop this up. That was tiger barb growth rate. Let's take a look at what we can find. So this is one of the things that I was actually going to talk about in terms of making the aquarium hobby easier. And that is finding some good sources. And I'm going to recommend you find 5 sources to get information from. And I'm going to say kind of, if you find 3 that all agree with each other, try and find 2 that don't necessarily agree with those. Not to say that they're polar opposites, but somebody that may have a different viewpoint on the same thing, and give you some, because I mean, the internet, you can find what you want to find. Depending upon what you search, and what you're looking for, you can find the answer that you want, generally speaking.
For sure. Like if there's so many different ways to keep fish. Like if we just went substrates, because we were just talking about substrates, everybody does it differently. I mean, we all know the father fish way, and then Corey does his way with crushed coral and stuff. And it just, everybody does it different, and it all works. Well, it doesn't all work, but if you follow somebody, try to do it exactly how they're doing it, and hopefully you'll have success. But I mean, like those 2 guys that I just mentioned, you can't go wrong with.
Right. Well, and you have to remember, like, say, for me, trying to do exactly what Corey does is probably not going to work, because Corey's got soft water, or at least he did at his old house. I have hard water. Even just, municipal water sources. The local fish store 3 minutes away from me, they're on a different municipal water source than I am. And Ed's is completely different than, those 2. So keep those things in mind. That's where the good old saying comes in. What works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. And that just depends on, what your water situation is. So let's see. A couple things I've found. I'm going to go with this one here. Credit to aquaticcommunity.com is saying, and of course, like we all know, growth for any fish depends on tank parameters, temperature, space, and feeding. That said, you should see growth in the 1/4 to 1/2 inch range every 6 weeks or so for tiger barbs.
And that's probably all directions.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that would be, and that sounds about right from what I've looked at in a couple of places.
And they look amazing when you get a whole bunch of big ones.
They do.
Man.
And that's one of those fish that you actually want to, I know a lot of times we kind of standardize and say you want 6 of a fish. That one, you really want closer to 10 of those for a school. That's really going to help with cutting down on the nipping. Tiger barbs can get really nippy, particularly the smaller the group gets. They can get extremely nippy when there's just a couple of them. So if you can do 10 of them in your tank, that's going to help a lot to kind of chill them out and cut back on that nipping.
And I maybe had 1 or 2 tiger barbs when I was a little kid, literally like before I was 10. So I'm no expert on tiger barbs, but I think they even say they get better like towards other fish when there's 10 because they're going to have more fun going after each other than they will, after who else is. And I don't want to pick a fish out, but generally I think they'll give their attentions to each other more.
Tampa Tom says, I've got a refill container of Easy Green, and I had the old white top squirt bottle, which is what I've got as well. The question is, does it dose the same as the new black top ones? That is a great question. I don't have the new black top ones because I've got the old bottle. Does anybody in here, and again, this is one of those wonderful resources, this community here that we were talking about. Does anybody in here know if there's any difference? I don't think there is. There may be. That's possible. You have one of your little co-op measuring cups. You can do a squirt out of each one and see how many mLs it puts out.
Yep. That's why I bought this stuff, so we can squirt some. I'll be right back.
So while Ed is doing that, like I mentioned before, when you're getting ready to go to the pet store, keep in mind, or at least get an idea of what's your budget, what tank size can you fit into that budget and is going to accommodate the type of fish that you enjoy. Look at your substrate. If you're doing things like an active substrate, so you're doing something that already has fertilizer in it, you may not want to dose Easy Green. Just like I mentioned before, I've got tanks that have the substrate with all the ferts in them, if you will. And so when I started adding Easy Green in that tank, bad idea. That being said, I dose it in all my other tanks that I don't have active substrate in, and it's a miracle worker. I love it. Candy Overhaul says it's the same, and Candy would know because she answers.
Then I'm not going to do it.
Oh, we're not going to do it. I shouldn't have read that yet. I should have waited.
Well, I can do it. It won't be brand new. Well, if I ever give a giveaway, I'll give the other one away. I'll keep one for myself. Because it is fun. Oh, now I got a cat that's going to want to eat this.
And
Nico, you do not want this.
Amy said hello, and then you had something that you wanted to answer, Shy.
Yeah, well, Priscilla asked how the betta was. So he's actually one of the fish that we got moved today. He's doing really good. I ended up naming him Patches because I'm the weirdo that names all of her fish. But he's doing really good. He's got the, what is it, a 5-gallon?
It's the 7-ish. It's the square tank that we used and brought back from the Big Fish Deal aquascaping contest that a lot of you all that have been around for a while have seen before on the channel. I think it's a 7-gallon tank. But yeah, it was, if you were looking at the pictures earlier that I showed, the very top left tank on that small rack, small black rack that I showed you, he's actually in there, but the light wasn't on. He's got his awesome little aquascape going on in there. Tell your boss thank you. For anybody that doesn't know, which is probably most of you, Shy won that off of the Facebook. Yeah, off of the Facebook for, I've just gone blank. Exotic Aquatics in Boulder, Colorado, which is where Priscilla works at. So I'm going to do a video, let him know thank you, and we're going to do a video for that. But I wanted to get the tank cleaned up a little bit, and I knew I was moving it, so that was a good opportunity to get some of the algae off the front glass and kind of rescape it before I did that video.
So it looks like just about the exact same. This, the Easy Carbon is more thin. So it might seem like there's a little more. This is, the Easy Green is a little bit more thick. But, yeah, there you go.
Oh, and hi, Amy.
Black and white. So is that what we wanted?
I think that's what we wanted. Good shot. We're getting professional in here.
Now, what tank should get the Easy Carbon?
I don't know. I mean, I've seen all of your tanks up close, and I can't think of one that I would say really needs it. So whichever one, it's easier to dose it in, Ed.
I'll throw it in the Beischer tank.
So Rockford Fish Keeping says, Fish Fever, this is the first place I live that's on well water, and I 100% approve over city water. Yes, well water is almost always the bee's knees compared to city water. And kudos to you and congratulations for having well water. I've had well water and natural spring water before, and I miss it. Our city water here is horrible. I won't even drink it. I do bottled water just because it's so heavily chlorinated and it just tastes awful. I'd probably drink that Betta water that John was talking about on his channel earlier before I drink the tap water that we have here. Whips World says, I asked Corey on Monday, but curious to hear your opinion. I bought the island preformed pond from Menards. It's going in the basement. I want to build a sump. Would you drill it and install bulkheads? I probably would. If you're building a sump for it, I would say go ahead and drill it and install the bulkheads. Reason being, bulkheads and what we're going to call gravity draining tanks or ponds or tubs, anything like that, it's a lot easier to ensure that you're not going to have any type of overflowing. Say you have a power outage, it drains all the way down into your sump. Your power comes back on. It starts pumping all that water in. If you have a hang-on overflow and you don't have something that's trying to create that suction to start that siphon back up to get the water over the side of the tank and flowing back down to your sump again, you can easily pump all of your water out of your sump into that main tank and then onto the floor. Whereas if you've got it drilled, once the water gets to a certain level, it's automatically going to start draining. So I personally would go with drill it and install bulkheads. Get down through here. I see we got a super chat. I'm going to get to that in just a second. Thank you, Bob, for that. Let me grab this real quick. Not highlight. Oh, that's the one we got. We got Whips World question. There it is. Amy, St. Creek Aquatics 2 says, did you like the little fish tank signs I showed you today, Fish from Fever? Yes, I did. They are awesome. Amy found a place on Etsy, kind of like Corey has a little aquarium co-op sign that you can get, the little decoration to go in the tank, where you can get your own custom things, whatever you want put on them. So she bought some of those. Very, very cool. I don't know if she's done a video on it yet or not, but I'll be watching Amy and Sand Creek Aquatics too to see if you do a video of those in the tank, because they're neat little things.
That's cool.
Down through here. Tim Carter says, Fish Room Fever, how gummy? I don't know what you meant. I'm sorry. And there's Bob Kaler, Kaler's Aquatics. Says, James, the glasses and boa remind me of my 5th grade teacher, Miss Bigham. She was like 6 foot tall. Well, I am not 6 foot tall, but I will be your 5th grade teacher. And Bob, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that very much. I'm hoping that now, Ed, are you going to be able to go Saturday? I know you've had some back and forth.
Well, I'm thinking I probably will. I know my sister just called me and I hung up on it, so I don't know what she said. She's probably begging me to come. If I do, if I go there, maybe I'll just have a spot. You'll have to spot me $100, or I'll give you $100 or something, and you can buy $100 worth of guppies if you want for me.
Gotcha.
And do that, and then I'll spend
if
time
I say
with
no, then you have to go. So
I know. Well, it's like I've had so much fun with my brother and sister-in-law the last couple of days, just playing games. Today we've been playing a Lord of the Rings game all day. It's been so much fun. And I do. Oh, look! It's my punching cat sticker. You're getting punched by Mike. Okay. Well, nevertheless, I don't know.
The reason I mention it is because we're hopeful that Bob, Kaler's Aquatics, myself, and Ed might all get to go up together to Kentucky to the parking lot swap they're going to have there. Oh, goodness. I've lost the page. I'll get that information pulled up and I'll post a link for it. But their club up there is going to have an awesome swap. And I have heard that there are going to be a lot of awesome guppies at that swap. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'd be super cool. maybe I'll come visit you on Monday or something, or Tuesday.
And there it is. There's Grubby Mike's fish with the $5 super sticker of the little hiya fox. Mike, thank you very much. Really do appreciate it. Love that super cute little sticker. There we go. She's adding to the boa. We're just gonna throw that right on there.
Oh, excellent.
Oh no!
But thank you, Mike, for that. I really do appreciate you. Awesome guy, awesome member, and all that. Sorry, Mrs. Fever's camera popped on, and I was like, "Oh no, do I have her on the?" But she's backstage. She's just listening through hers. But it threw me off looking at the backstage camera and seeing somebody pop up. But seriously, Mike, thank you. Appreciate it.
I will send her updated pictures.
Go ahead.
Now that he's not fresh out of the shipping bag, he's a lot prettier.
Okay. Bob said that he can't find anybody to cover him yet for the ark.
Oh no. Well, hopefully we can get it worked out where we can go up there and all have some fun.
We'll make sure we get somebody there.
Amy asking, should I do a video on those tank signs? I mean, I think it would be cool. I'm not saying you have to, but I think it'd be something neat to show off that you found. It's an awesome little item. Tampa Tom saying $100 worth of guppies with a big heart eye emoji.
Well, yeah, that'd be awesome.
Griffin saying, wish I could. Saturday, had to go to Michigan for a funeral. Griffin, again, I'm sorry about that. My condolences. I know it takes time, but it gets easier. And again, sorry for your loss, buddy.
That's really here. How far does Griffin live from there?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure, to be honest with you. So one of the other things I wanted to talk about, and again, we're catching questions as they come through, but I'm going to try and get through the rest of this. We still got about 22 minutes left. Is when you're setting up your tank, one of the things you could do to make life a little bit easier on yourself is get some live plants in there. And to add to that, I'm also going to suggest trying to get some submerged grown plants in there, especially if you're new to plants or you're new to the hobby in general. You order plants, and there's nothing wrong with immersed grown. Almost all plants that you get are immersed grown. But if you can get plants that are submerged grown or, grown fully underwater, you don't have to worry about the die-off and then regrowing. And then you've got this, dead plant material in your tank that can cause issues if you don't get it out of there like you need to. Or sometimes, they die off and they never grow back. I've had that happen before too. But that kind of plays into getting with local groups, or like, my LFS here, I'm pretty sure most of what they get probably comes in immersed grown from their supplier, but it sits in the tank and gets some time to actually convert before you purchase it. So if you can find some place where it's either already being converted or it was, submerged grown, that's going to help you out a lot, especially if you're new to plants. And that's going to make maintenance easier. Like Ed said, it's going to help with algae. You get more plants in there to eat up those nutrients. I'm trying really hard not to let this big burp out. I am sorry, guys. So I keep stopping talking. But it's throwing me off. I'm like, I can't breathe and I can't talk. But not only is it going to help, to cut back on algae, it's also going to help with water changes. If you've got lots of plants in there soaking up those nitrates, that's going to help keep your levels lower and keep you from having to do water changes as much, which makes life a lot easier. You never know what you're going to get here, folks, okay? I mean, I'm wearing glasses and a boa. I mean, talking about burping probably shouldn't surprise too many of you all. Whipsworld, you are welcome.
Let's talk about where you can get, or, some of the different types of plants.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now, can you go out and get? I mean, I know the answer. I know. Go to your pond and get some plants out of your local pond or stream.
So if you're going to do that, first off, legal disclaimer: check with local laws. Make sure that you're legally allowed to do that, because collecting wild plants is not always legal. So make sure that you can legally do it. Number two, if you're going to do it, make sure that you quarantine and treat those plants. And I'm going to say this is probably not the greatest method for somebody that's just getting into plants or just getting into the hobby, because then you really don't know necessarily what you're looking for in terms of good or bad, what plants are going to be easy to grow, what plants might need a lot higher light. And that's another thing you have to look at when you're bringing in plants that you go and collect. They're probably still going to have some die-off even though they grew underwater, because they're used to being out in natural sunlight, and you're bringing them in under artificial light, which is generally not going to be quite as strong. So you can end up with some die-off that way. But you can do it. I have done it. You want to make sure that you're not bringing in pests like the lovely dragonfly larvae, and other things that like to hitchhike on plants when you bring them in from the wild.
How would you get rid of those pests if you did do it?
There are some different dips. I've seen everything from using I think it's a 1-to-10 ratio of bleach, doing a dip. I think there are 1 or 2 prepackaged solutions, if you will, that you can purchase, plant dips, that you can dip those plants in ahead of time.
How about like mosquito bites or mosquito baits? It's either called mosquito bites or mosquito baits. It's like a little disc that you can drop in
Right.
to the water.
Now, my question is, you use that in your ponds, correct?
I did.
But you still had dragonfly larvae, didn't you?
In one of them,
In
but
one.
not in both.
Okay. Did you use it in both?
I did.
So you had a 50-50 success rate with it.
But it was all used up. I think I was supposed to put them in every month.
Gotcha.
And I just put them in one time. I think I put them in July, and I probably should have put another one in August.
I got you. So see, I've not had personal experience with that, but I think that's something you could probably use. I don't know how do I want to phrase this? I don't know the efficacy of it in a short-term dip. Like, I know, like you say, it works for 1 month, but I don't know how well it's going to work if you dip the plants for 10 minutes or soak them overnight, if it's going to kill all that stuff off.
Gotcha.
So my suggestions are going to be, talk to the people at your local fish store, which this is kind of part of it anyways. This is going to make your life easier. Get to know your local fish store. Make friends with them, especially if you can find a good one. Make friends with them, because then you could talk to them and say, hey, how do your plants come in? Do you purchase, do they come in immersed grown? You can look, do you have any that have already converted over? Things like that. I don't know what she's laughing about, but we'll find it here in a minute.
That's my luck too.
And the other thing is, I know most of the people in here don't have local clubs, but if you've got a local club or, even Facebook group for your area, that's another great way to find some plants that are more than likely submerged grown. Most hobbyists aren't doing immersed grown. And then also, some good information you can get with those people. They, may or may not have the same water as you, and say, hey, what do you recommend for this plant? How does this plant grow best for you? Some specific plants would be things that are, and this is not for everybody. Again, it works for me, may not work for you, but guppy grass works really well for me. Val, which is in this tank up here, is another one. Super easy, grows really well, grows like a weed. Mosses are nice, usually fairly easy to keep. Pogostemon stellatus octopus or octopus plant grows really well. And I know we've had some people that those haven't worked for that are in the chat, but those are just kind of some general, those work for most people and grow fairly easily without a lot of hard work involved. Stick them in there, let them go.
Now, what do you do if, once say you buy some plants from your local pet store and it has snails, and then all of a sudden you have a lot of snails in your tank?
So I don't mind snails personally. That being said, I am making sure that and this is a whole nother topic we won't get into right now, but the plants that I'm going to be selling online, I'm going to make sure that those are going out snail free, or that they're in snail free tanks. I love snails, and even Corey has said that he intentionally buys snails and brings them in and puts them in the tanks where they hold their plants to be sold. I've seen him show the videos that go, see, we need more snails in this tank. I love these little snails. People hate them, but I like them. So I don't see a problem with that. You'll get some people who are like, ooh, there were snails in my plants. I could understand that if you don't want snails. It also depends on what type of snails, ram's horns versus the what most people call pond snails or the bladder snails. But I'm not anti-snail, so I don't mind that.
Well, okay, and then there are plants that you can buy that have never been touched by snails or anything. But the stem plants are what's Jason from not Fish Room Fever, from Redfish Bluefish. He like does the little cuttings and
Lord. I could have told you if you hadn't asked me, right?
I know.
Oh, somebody's got it in the chat already before I think of it. Tissue culture. There we go. Thank you,
Tissue
John
culture,
Cox
yeah.
and Candy
I
Overhaul.
always go stem cell.
Yeah.
No, I shouldn't.
I want to say bioculture. I'm like, that's not it.
Well, you can get those for a lot more for those but what would you think about that type of plant?
I don't see anything wrong with it. If you don't want snails and you want something that's been created in a clean room, so to speak, a pure environment, that's a good way to go. Like you said, you're going to pay a little bit more for them. I think there is, and I may be wrong, but I think, in my opinion, there's potentially more issue or potential there for them to have an issue converting over to your water, because those are probably not locally tissue cultured. So you're looking at, again, going from, I can get this from a local person and it's accustomed to this water more than likely, to I'm going to order this online and I have no clue what this plant is used to, and maybe I don't know what this plant is supposed to have. Whereas like you and I had both admittedly kind of lucked into plants, if you will. We got some, they did great. After we'd got some before them, they did horrible. And then we just got like addicted to plants kind of because we were having good luck with them. And it really was luck to start with. So that is my thoughts on it. Not necessarily correct, but that's what I think about it.
Well, for another beginner thing that you're trying to use these plants, what type of lights? Can they get like a old-fashioned fluorescent light bulb on it, or does it have to be a nice LED?
You can.
3.0?
So here's one thing that I have found, and money plays into all of this. So let's just say this: if going back to that budget on the initial planning, if you've got money to burn and you don't necessarily care to just spend whatever, that's awesome. I salute you. It may be easier for you to just go to your local fish store if they offer the service like mine does. I could go to them and say, hey, I want this size tank. This is what I want in it. Here's my money. Come to my house, set it up, maintain it every month. I don't want to touch it. I just want to look at it. That's an option. And I get into that because you can spend more money and get the fluvels. Fluval makes a great light, but you can also go low budget with the like the LEDs, like Night Crew LEDs or the Aquanites that you can get off of Amazon. You can also do, fluorescents. And I say that having a mix. I have some of the old T12 bulb fluorescents, the massive fluorescent bulbs, just out of necessity, if you will, the fact that, hey, I need lights. I've got, 20 lights that I've accrued from buying all these bulk Craigslist purchases. So I've got some lights that have the massive, T12 bulbs. I've got T8s. I've got the high output fluorescents. This is actually, you can't see it, but the light that's above my piranha tank is actually an old reef light that I changed out the bulbs to a plant bulb. You can really get by with just about anything for those plants that I mentioned. Now, if you get into fancier plants, you get into your Bucephalandras and some other things like that, things that are going to require more specific stuff, not really the easy stuff like we're talking about, then I'm going to say you probably want to take some time and research what light would be best for those plants. But just to get started, I've even got the old 10-gallon tops that have the screw-in bulbs from 15 years ago. I've even got some of those. People were growing plants before this right here. This is actually an old. It's got the plant bulb in it. I don't know if you can see that because I'm covered up with the chat. Yeah, you can see it where it's got more of a reddish glow to it. That's one of the older style lights off of what would have been a 20-gallon hood and light set. And then above it, I've got a fluval light, my one and only fluval LED that I purchased secondhand. So you can go with lots of different things and have success.
My first plant light was the Flugel 3.0 from Corey. And I bought the big one. I put it on my 125. And I was like, I'm going to try to get plants to survive. And it did it. It was amazing. And I couldn't believe how awesome it was. Now, that said, all these lights in my room are all Aquanates because I can't afford to spend, $200 on each one. And these are, they're like $30 or $28.
Yeah. Do you care to grab one of those shop lights that's sitting on the rack we emptied?
And what I love about them is they're such low wattage that I save on my electric bills too. So
absolutely. So that is something that I do take into consideration with having, 50, 60, 70, 90, almost 100 aquariums now, is power consumption. So going with LEDs for me is even more than looking at plant growth. It's more energy efficient, like you said, than running. I'd say this one fixture I've got here, it's got 4-foot bulbs and it runs 6 of them, but I'm only running 3 at the moment. If I were to run that, like say on a coral tank, like it's intended to, that thing would eat as much power as all of my LEDs put together. Yeah. These are one of my favorites. These right here are a 4-foot shop light, but they're actually LEDs. And you can daisy chain up to 6 of them together. And they come in a 4-pack, or at least I buy them in a 4-pack, right at $54. And they usually have a coupon like every other month for a discount off of that. So, I mean, you figure even, we'll just say, we'll round it up to $60 depending upon taxes or whatever. I get those off Amazon. $15 a piece for a 4-foot dual bulb LED light. That's about as cheap as you can possibly get. I love those things.
That's awesome.
Sarah Lynn Snow did ask, what if the plant comes with worms? Those you probably don't want. I would say it's highly likely that it's probably planaria if you've got some worms on a plant. Either way, and somebody please correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think the recommended dosage of 1 part bleach to 10 parts water. Do just a quick dip and then rinse it off. And then I always like to dip them in dechlorinated water after that, just to make sure I'm getting all the chlorine off before they go in a tank. Should take care of what you're needing to do. Or if it's not like planaria, I would imagine if you've got the little sprayer on your kitchen sink or your bathroom sink, people are like, oh, I'm not doing this in my kitchen sink. You can just hit it with the sprayer, take it out in the garden hose and spray it, and it should wash the worms off. But I would probably say if I don't know what the worms are, I'm going to rinse them off beforehand.
Yeah. I had the planaria problem about 6 months ago. And when I went over to visit LRB, I asked him about it. And it was in his guppy tank. And he said, don't feed the guppies for 3 days and they'll eat them.
Yes.
And he was right. I thought that the guppies would eat their fry before they'd eat the planaria. But they ate the white planaria.
They will. I actually added. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's just awesome. Go ahead.
I was going to say, the Endlers that Sean at Peck Tech gave us each a pair of, I actually put them in the fluval tank because of the planaria. It was a shrimp only tank. And that's where a lot of times you'll see planaria pop up a good bit, is when you don't have any fish in there. So I actually put them in there, and they've been doing a great job at taking care of that. There are also a couple of different things you can do for planaria. I'm not going to get real deep into it, but Peck Tech did an awesome video, not that he needs my help promoting it, on dealing with planaria, not just talking about Panicure C, but also this neat little device that he uses. It's a little glass tube with multiple ports. It's a trap for planaria. So I would recommend checking out his video because that was a pretty cool little trap.
Yeah, traps are too gross for me.
Right. That being said, I made my own trap. I took one of the API glass test tubes and I just knocked a little hole in that plastic lid and then put my bait in there and dropped it in the tank, and that thing filled up with planaria. So there's your do-it-yourself cheap method, but the really awesome glass trap is only like $13 on Amazon anyway.
Well, I like to do it yourself because then you can just drop it in a Ziploc bag and throw it away.
You can, absolutely. Petzotic/multiple aquariums. Hey, Diego says tissue culture plants are usually in a container with roots covered with a water type gel. Yes, absolutely. So you could have issues once they're in your tanks. I could see that definitely being true. I've not done much with them, but I could definitely see that being an issue. Hey, Chewy, how are you? I think I'm caught up here. Looks like I'm caught up. I'm going to try and do a couple more things. I'm going to do at least, oh goodness. We're going to talk some more about this in Ed's chat coming up here in about 4 minutes. For anybody that catches this on the replay and for some reason doesn't go over to Ed's, which you should go catch Ed's. But the last thing I want to talk about on this show, and we've got some good stuff still to come, is going to be having a QT setup. Doesn't mean you have to do like I've done. And thank you, Zen, for posting the Planaria link for the Pectic video. I appreciate that. You don't have to have tanks that are set up running full-time for quarantine. Corey, I believe, yeah, it was Corey Aquarium Co-op did an awesome video that shows one of the great methods of having just a little plastic container. And you can basically take that plastic container. I'm not going to go into full details. You can go find his video. That's a good video to watch, and it's got a lot more detail than I can pack into 2 minutes. But a cutie setup, yeah, you need a cutie setup. That's why I've got Shy here. She's my cutie setup. A QT or quarantine setup. So you can have that plastic container with a sponge filter, your tubing and one little air pump if you don't run central air like I do or Ed does, a lot of people do. And basically just have it in a box with a lid on it, have it tucked under one of your aquariums, and then, oh, hey, I need to quarantine this fish, or this fish got sick. I need to, move it into here. Having that set up on hand and ready to go. And this is something that Shy had talked about, and we could talk about it more on Ed's stream, but she'd mentioned beforehand. She said, have medicine on hand, which is something I've said a lot. I try and have it because, maybe you have an issue at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday, or especially now with the current world health status or situation, if you will. A lot of places aren't open 24 hours. A lot of places are closing at 9 or 10 o'clock, even Walmart's. So you have an issue happen at 11 o'clock at night. You need fish meds. Nobody's open. Amazon's not going to get it to you that night, although they're probably going to get to the point that you can push the button and 30 minutes later a drone's going to drop it on your doorstep. But I digress there. It's good to have just basic medications on hand for the most common diseases. That's where I'm going to end that. I do want to run through and say some thank yous to the new members and the super chatters and super stickerers tonight. First and foremost, thank you, Chattanooga Ed, for being here with me tonight. Thank you, Shy Gal, Miss Fever, not just for being on here, but for all your help today, moving tanks and fish and all of that awesome stuff. Moderators, you all do an amazing job each and every stream, and I really do appreciate what you do. I can't say thank you enough to you all. I appreciate everybody that lurked and listened, the participants with the questions and the comments and the answers. You all are amazing. Tampa Tom Fishing, CJ Black, that'll catch the replay, I'm sure. Thank you all for doing that. Let's go through here, get this to open up. And then we had Delilah's Critters and Streetwise both joining the Fish Room Fever family, becoming members. Streetwise re-upping. Thank you both very much for that. I hope you all enjoy it. Super chats. We're going to do this real quick. Kenny E, have a great night. Of course, we are going over to Ed's channel, so stay tuned. Don't run off just yet. We're going to continue this conversation. We're going to do it on Ed's channel. We had... Oh, this is not working. It's working, but it's being slow. It always does this to me. Here we go. Multi-tank addiction with the $1 super pooper chat. Grumpy Mike's fish pooping on the stream as well. Multi-tank addiction. Chris coming in with the $10 super chat after that. Bob at Kaler's Aquatics with the $5 super chat. And then Grumpy Mike again with the $5 cute fox Dancy sticker. Love y'all. Appreciate you all. Thank you for everything. Means a lot to me, and it really does help out with things around the fish rooms. So thank you very much. That stuff goes to, like even just the lumber. Lumber has doubled in price. So just building all these new racks, stuff like that contributes to that. It contributes to things like, going to the fish swaps and stuff. So I do greatly appreciate it. I think somebody's already dropped the link, but if not, oh yeah, there we go. Zen has dropped the link for the Nocturnal Feeding Show, Feeding Your Late Night Hobby Hunger, over on Chattanooga Ed's channel. So we are going to go over there. Ed, do you have your saying You remember it?
Yes. Make sure, don't be afraid to keep your tanks clean. Get your hands wet.
Nice.
It's kind of close.
Any final words? No. And guess what? She usually talks over on Ed's stream. I know I don't shut up long enough for her to talk here, but we'll see if she's going to talk over on Ed's stream. Y'all already know what I'm going to say. Love y'all. I appreciate you. Until next time, keep your fish healthy. Keep yourselves healthy. Catch yourself a little fish room fever. Take care, everybody.